And for that, we go for deep learning. Basically, this is the extension of a neural networks, we can say, particularly a multi-layer perceptron, which has some neurons in the input layer in general, and some neurons in the output layer and some hidden layer. Like this, you will have a feed-forward neural network structure. I hope many of you know this well. A simple feed-forward neural network, a multi-layer perceptron. So from here you'll have each neuron to the each other neuron in the adjacent layer. You will have the connections, and every neuron will do some sort of convolution part and transforms that output using an activation function. So like this, you will have a neural network, or we can call it as a feed-forward neural network, where you have 3 neurons in the input layer, and we have 4 neurons in the hidden layer, and 2 neurons in the output layer. We call it as a 3-4-2 topology. As the data is increasing, you need to have many number of hidden layers needed. Means a huge computation is going to take place between this input layer and the output layer. And since there are more than 2 or even 4, 6, 10 or 20 layers of neurons will come in between the input and the output layer, and hence the learning, whatever you call it, becomes very deep in nature, and hence called the deep learning. And you have a different architectures for the deep learning, and we only see today the simplest of all, called the convolutional neural network. And remember, the deep learning necessary is only for those who are dealing with very large volumes of the data. So if you don't have such a large volume of data, there is no point in applying the deep learning part. Suppose you are dealing with only iris data structure or a simple data structures which has not even 500 rows of information, 500 tuples of information you have, then you don't need to go for a deep learning. Okay. But if you have at the same time thousands of data, 10,000 tuples you have on around 20 columns you have, then your data is something large. Then you can think of applying a deep neural network. So when you do this, the basic operation in this convolutional neural network, as the name says, is convolution. Let us see that with an example, a simple example. Let us say have a small image of size 6x6. So let us say my image is 6x6. Having some sort of intensity values like this, say 4, 9, 2, 5, 8, 3, 5, 6, 2, 4, 0, 3. Some values, something like this you have. So this is the image, of 6 columns and 6 rows, or you can call it as height is 6 and width is 6. And let us take some filter, a simple filter which is of size 3 cross 3. Say, like this is simple filter which basically identifies if any straight line present in an image, like this. And we just want to do convolution operation of this filter over this image. So what happens is we will just superimpose this filter over this image. Means it's in this size is 3 cross 3. So when you superimpose it, it will try to occupy the, it will just be placed over this first 3 cross 3. And what we do is we try to do the sum of the products. The convolution operation is the every pixel intensity value being multiplied with the filter coefficient and then sum of all the products. So you'll get 4 into 1 plus 9 into 0 plus 2 into minus 1 plus 5 into 1 plus 6 into 0 plus 2 into minus 1 plus 2 into 1 plus 4 into 0 plus 5 into minus 1. So this becomes basically 4 plus 0 minus 2 plus 5 plus 0 minus 2 plus 2 plus 0 minus 5. So that is basically 4, 2, 7, 5, 7, 2. You'll get the output 2. So the output will be placed in some another window like this. And then what we do is we will just displace this filter one step towards the right. So that so the first convolution, when you do it, it occupies these 3 columns and these 3 rows. And then the second time when you move the filter, it will start from here and take this. Means you will get the multiplications of 9 into 1 plus 2 into 0 plus 5 into minus 1 like that. So if you do this, you will get these are all zeros. And this is ones you have, so you'll get 9 plus 6, 15 plus 4, 19, and this is 5 plus 4, 9 plus 4, 13. So this is minus 19 minus 13, you will get a 6 as the output. Then again we move the filter, then you will get this 258, 240, matrix is covered. And if you see here, 2 plus 2, 4 plus 5, 9. This is minus 13. So you will get minus 4. And then finally it goes to 5, 8, 3, this last part. And you will get 4 plus 4, 8, 13. And 3 plus 3, 9 plus 2, 11. So you will get 2. And once it finishes this, it cannot move further because the image gets closed. And it will just slide down one row so that your next filter will occupy this 3 cross 3. So like this, you will move the filter over a different from the left to right and from top to the bottom. And every time you do a convolution, means you do the sum of the products by superimposing this filter with the corresponding coefficients, and the resultant, whatever you get a single value, write it over the top. Means write it over a new structure. So when you have a 6 cross 6 and when you have a 3 cross 3 filter, you will get a resultant image a 4x4 image you will get. So like this, you do this convolution operation. So why the convolution has become very important is for two reasons. First one is convolution, you can use it for parameter sharing. Means if you have some sort of a feature detector which is useful in one part of the image, may probably useful in another part of the image also. Means when I look for this filter is basically a filter used to detect straight line and image. Okay, so this when I use it to check, so in my image, over an image, I may have a straight line here, I may have a straight line here, like this. I may have some straight lines at some different random locations. Similarly, I may have some sort of a horizontal line like this. I may have a line with the positive slope and line with the negative slope. Something like this I may, if I have some, so these are all the different types of shapes or we can call features. So when I take one filter, that is a filter to detect a straight line, a vertical line, and run it over the complete image, then this can identify, here you have a straight line, here you have a straight line. Means when the filter exactly superimposes that filter with the corresponding image intensities, then this you will identify that straight line through the response. So like this you can get those responses. And if you change the filter, you can take a filter 2 that will identify the vertical line. So like this. This is the filter for a vertical line. So similarly, a slow diagonal line, if you want, you can use filters like this. Similarly for the diagonal with the other slope. So like this, different filters, when you use it over the image, it will try to locate the corresponding, what is that filter about, what it is going to detect, and that detection, it will try to help it in the same filter looked at different places in the image, and you will identify the particular shapes immediately. That is one advantage of the convolution. And the second advantage is we can have a sparsity of connections. Means in each layer, each output value depends on small number of inputs only. So, and if you have dealing with some sort of a binary images and all, then what you will have is basically a sparse matrix only in general. So the basic convolution operation, when you do it over a convolution with some filter, you will get a response. And if you collect all those responses, you will get a resultant image. So when you do so you take an image, a 6x6 image, and take some filter of 3x3 and apply the convolution, and the resultant what you get is a 4x4 matrix or 4x4 resultant image. So this is your input image. This is your filter, and this is your resultant image or the convoluted image. So the parameters, if you see over this complete operation, means define a filter and move the filter over this image from the top left to the bottom right by sliding it throughout the from left to right, and once you finish the extreme, reach the extreme right, then slide down and move again from the left to right. In this way you reach this, so that when you start, you superimpose the filter at this position like this and keep moving, and you reach this particular place where you superimpose this filter with the image and you get a response. Okay, so the parameters includes is first one is the size of the filter. So I used a 3x3 size. So the F, we can say size of the filter represented by some F, which is 3. And then the second parameter is stride, which is denoted by S, say 1. Means I just move a displacement of 1 unit to the right and 1 unit to the bottom. So when I take this as the first 3x3, then I just move 1 unit towards the right. So that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if I have, then when I move right, I occupy the second, third and fourth columns of the first, second and third rows. And then this is what stride means, how many units of movement should take place. And padding is another parameter. So when I here in this case, we set padding equal to 0. So when you say padding is 0, means what happens is the resultant image dimensions will be generally lower than the original dimensions. So original image is of a 6x6. Excuse me. And when you use a filter of 3x3 and do the convolution operation, you will get a 4x4 image. Rather than that, when I take a 6x6 image and do a convolution operation with a 3x3, and yet I need to have a 6x6 only output image, then what I do is I should do a padding. Necessary padding is required to retain the size of the output as the same as the size of the input. So under these parameters, means having a filter size of width 3 and height 3 and a stride of 1 and a padding of 0, how many number of multiplications are required? Can anyone tell me, when you finish this when you obtain this 4x4 matrix by doing like this, doing the product of that is sum of the products by superimposing the filter with the given input image. So when you finish this 4x4 matrix, how many number of multiplications are required for you? Can anyone tell? So for getting one output, how many multiplications are required? You get 3 into 3 because your filter size is 3x3 and you superimpose it with a 3x3 region. So the 9 pixels here are going to do the product with the 9 coefficients. So you will have, in order to get one response, you have 9 multiplications and how many additions are required? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So many additions and so many products are there. Addition operation is not expensive, but multiplication is an expensive. So 9 multiplications are required in order to get one response. And the response size is 4 cross 4. Means you need to have for every response 9 products. Means for all the 16 responses you have 144 products are required. Means you need to multiply two numbers 140 any two numbers that 144 times in order to get one complete convolution result. So if I increase the size stride from 1 to 2, then what happens is the displacement will be done 2 times. Means 2 units of movement takes place. Means if I take this 6 cross 6 matrix, and I have a 3 cross 3 filter I take. So when I do the first superimposing, so I will have this part. I will do the superimposing. And then stride equal to 2, then what I will do is, instead of moving from by 1 unit, I will, instead of taking 2, 3, 4 column, I take this part. Okay, and then when I move again, so you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. So the first superimpose filter, let us say 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3 positions are there first time. So when I superimpose with the stride 2, so I will get 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, 5. And then again a stride 2, I will go beyond 5. So means if I need to start and I need to have an extra column, since it is not there, so I will just drop down to 2 rows and then my next convolution will be at third row, first column, like this I will go. And then once again, 2 units movement, I will go to these locations. And after that, again, I move down. So once again, so this is the first row, third row, fifth row, I'll come. But again, here the filter will not sit properly because it is coming out because of a lacking of 1 row in the image. So we need to stop here. So what we get is you will get a 2 cross 2 matrix only you will get when you do the striding with the 2. So that 2 cross 2 matrix with a 3 cross 3 filter, you will get around 4 9s, 36 products only are required compared to stride 1. But in general, most of the times we take only stride 1. And what we do is, in order to retain the image, we will try to do the padding of this image. Means if you have an image of a 6 cross 6 size, so what we do is we do a padding of zeros over the border like this, so that you will get extra 2 rows of information and 2 columns of information you get. So first row with the zeros and another row with the zeros at the bottom, and the first column of zeros and the last column of the zeros. So then if you do the, once again take some filter of 3 cross 3 size and do, so now this becomes, what is the size of the image now? 3 plus 2, 5 plus 8, and 2 plus 3, 5, 6, and somewhere we will be setting 1, 2, 3, 4 only we have gone. So here is 6 rows. So 6 and 6, one row at the top it becomes 7, and one row at the bottom it becomes 8. Similarly, 6 columns and one row, one column at the front and one column at the back, 8 columns, and 8 cross 8 matrix it will happen. So 8 cross 8 matrix, when you do convolution with a 3 cross 3, then you will get a resultant image of 5 cross 5. So you need to do the necessary padding required, how many rows should be added, how many columns should be added, so that you get the same 6 cross 6 original size, that accordingly the padding should be done. Then similarly, we are only talking about one 6 cross 6 image, means basically we are assuming that it is only one channel. So if you have a color image, then you will have a number of channels will be more. So you will have a width, height into number of channels, you will get 3 channels like. So when you have another channel is coming, then you accordingly, for every channel also you need to have a filter. Means a filter 1 also. So in the earlier case we have a 6 cross 6 matrix, we have a 3 cross 3 filter. Now if let us assume that I have a color image of size 6 cross 6, so my input is 6 cross 6 cross 3, where 3 representing the channels. So I have a red channel, green channel, and blue channel. Each channel is of size 6 cross 6. Then I need to have filters also of size 3 cross 3 cross 3. Then the output also I will get for every channel respectively. So I'll get a 4 cross 4 output for one channel, assuming that there is no padding, and stride 1. 4 cross 4 cross 3, I'll get the output. Okay, 4 cross 4, because we sum up all the filter coefficients and make one 4 cross 4 matrix. So the number of multiplications, if you see, is 4 cross 4 cross 3 cross 3 cross 3. This is around 3 power 3. This is 27 into 16. So this is roughly 16 7s 112, 16 2 32 plus 11, 432 products are required. Similarly, when you have so in general the data is for us is multi-channel image only, means you will have at least 3 channels of images like this you will get, and you do the convolution. Let us say you have a filter 1 of 3 channels, because you need to have that many channels, and let us say you are using different filters. So a filter 2 of, once again, a similar number of channels. So here you will get one 4 cross 4 output. If you assume that this is a 6 cross 6 cross 3, and here you have a 3 cross 3 cross 3, and you will get a 4 cross 4 when you do the convolution of these 3 channels with these 3 filters. And here also you will get a 4 cross 4. So all these things together you become, so if I use only 2 filters, then I will get a 4 cross 4 cross 2, like this I will get. So this is how the, means the number of products, if you see, is the number of outputs as 4 cross 4 cross 2, multiplied with the filter coefficient, so you have 3 cross 3 cross 3. So it becomes 27 to 54 times 16, roughly around 860 something plus will be there. So this is how convolution operation will be performed over the large image with the different filters. So if you do one convolution, that doesn't mean that one layer has been finished. Means when you are using a deep network, you will have layers we call. Particularly, we have say convolution layer, then activation functions, max pool layer, dense layer, like this different layers you have. So what do you mean by one convolution layer? Means, so you will have some input like this. Let us say a 6 cross 6 cross 3, an RGB image of size 6 cross 6 over 3 channels, and I have a filter 1 of 3 cross 3 cross 3, and another filter 2 of same size. Then I'll get some output. So when I do the convolution with this, I'll get an output 4 cross 4. And when I do a convolution of this image with this filter, I will get a 4 cross 4 output. And I combine these two, I'll get a 4 cross 4 cross 2. And this is up to here is a convolution only has been done. Then what we do is over this, we apply a activation function. Particularly a ReLU function, we use it. And that ReLU function gives you output of once again 4 cross 4 cross 2. So this entire convolution plus applying the activation on those resultant convolution images and get an output image makes you one convolution layer. This complete thing, we call it as a one convolution layer. Like this, people use many convolution layers in order to do the learning part. Excuse me. So you take a sample network. Hello.
Sir, is there any problem? You are not audible.
No, sir. I'm sorry. I got a call which I could not decline it.
I
So I
think
just
it is muted. Your mic is muted. Okay,
so
sir,
to take a sample network, so just like how we have used iris data, particularly when you are using deep learning, basically we deal with images, and these images are we use basically MNIST data set, which is a small image size. Basically, those images are of 32 cross 32. So what we do here is in general, when you say a sample complete network, so you will have images as the input. So this we call it as a layer 0, or we can say that it is an input layer. Okay, and let us say the dimensions, let us say that you have 32 cross 32 cross okay, MNIST data set is 32 cross 32 only binary images. So you let us assume you have another data set MNIST fashion, that is around 39 cross 39 cross 3. Means red, green, and blue channels are there with some 39 rows and 39 columns. And what we do is you have in the next, you apply some filter of size 3, stride 1, and padding 0. And let us say you apply 10 filters. Satvik? So when you do this 10 filters, then you will get, we call this output the layer 1. So means we are applying a convolution layer. We are applying convolution. And when you use 39 cross 39 image with filters 3 cross 3 and slide 1 and with no padding, then you will get a 37 cross 37 image. And since you are using 10 filters, your output is 37 cross 37 cross 10. So a convolution layer means we do the convolution of these 10 filters of size 3 cross 3 and apply an activation function. Together we call it as one convolution layer. And then you apply another convolution. Now you can say the filter size is increase the size of the filter and also increase the stride and padding, no padding, and apply some 20 filters. So you can say the output, again do the convolution, apply the activation function. So makes one convolution layer, and this output will be like you will get 17 cross 17 cross 20 when you do the filter with the 5 cross 5, and when you move it with a stride 2, you will get 17 columns and 17 rows, and 20 filters are there, so you will get a 17 cross 17 cross 20. And once again you apply the filter size 5 and stride 2, padding 0, another 20 filters. Then you will get the third layer, another convolution layer, and these dimensions will be 7 cross 40. And then what we do is, this is optional to have as many convolution layers as you have. And then what we do is we'll completely take this. At this stage, I want to stop this convolution and make it into flatten it. So I will just transform all this into, I'll just write it here, a single dimensional feature vector. So 7 into 7 into 4, it is 28 into, so 28 into 7 is 7, 8, 56, 7, 2, 14, 19. So 1960 neurons. We'll just take this and write it over a single dimensional feature vector. And then we will take some output and we'll apply another activation function here and get an output by connecting it to the let us say if you have a binary class problem, one neuron is sufficient. So you connect all these things and apply an activation function, you will get an output. So like this, you will have a typical convolution neural network structure looks like. So main parameters, if you have, you can see is a convolution layer is the most predominant layer where you apply the convolution operation. And the convolution operation, when you do it, in general, what we will do is in the beginning layers, we will have the filters that extract all the low level features. So the first layer, second layer, and all, you can see these are used to extract the low level features. And when you increase the size filter, then you are going to extract some mid-level features or you will extract the high-level features as you proceed further. So basically, another reason of introducing the deep learning is when you have people before the deep learning, what they do is they extract their own features and claim that their own features are very powerful and predominant so that they can get accuracy closer to 100%. But later, when the deep learning come into the picture, it says that you don't extract the features. I will take the part of the feature extraction. So the raw image, we will give it as an input to the deep neural network. And by applying a sequence of convolutional layers, at this part it will extract the low-level features, at this part it will extract the mid-level features, and at this part it will extract the high-level features. Once you are done with, you do some flattening, means converting all that resultant outputs at this stage into a single dimensional feature vector. And then if you want, you can convert it into another single dimensional feature vector with the reduced dimensions like this. And then finally you can give the output by gap. So one predominant layer is the convolution layer. And what we do is between each successful convolution layers, we will put another layer in between called pooling layer. Pooling layer basically we use max pool. Means what we do is this will try to, when you, let us say a simple example, let us say you have a 4x4 convolution result is there. Means you had an image of 6x6 and you applied a filter width of 3x3, you obtain a 4x4 result. Okay, and let us say this is your filter values like this. So what the max pool will do is it will generally take a 2x2 size and returns the maximum value here. So out of these 4, we have a maximum value 9. And out of these 4, you have a maximum value 5. And out of these 4, you have a maximum value 6. And out of these 4, you have a maximum value 5. So like this, it will do. So the resultant, what happens when you do a max pool operation on a 4x4 matrix, you will get a 2x2 result. Another type of pooling is average pooling. Instead of max, if you take an average pooling, then what you will get 4 plus 5, 9 plus 9, 18 plus 6, 24. 24 over 4, you get 6 as the average. Similarly, 2 plus 2, 4, 8, 13. 13 over 4, around 3.3. Like this, you will get average values. This is average pool. And this is max pool. So people prefer this only because the max operation is comparatively easier than the average operation. So like this, between convolution layer to convolution layer, a pooling layer has been introduced. So that what happens is the dimensions slowly you get lowered, and finally you move towards the actual output. Okay. So is that clear, or do you have any queries so far? Please tell me. So shall I proceed further?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So the well-known architectures, if you take the first architecture is LINET architecture. Even though people call AlexNet as the first, but before that LINET has come. So in the LINET architecture, basically it is basically defined for the MNIST data. So it takes an input a 32 cross 32 cross 1. Means the MNIST images are basically binary images, handwritten digit written 0 to 9, any one character present on that image. So they are one channel only, 32 cross 32 cross 1. So they apply a 5 cross 5 filter of stride 1. So you will get, when you apply 5 cross 5 with the padding 0, you will get 28 cross 28. So this is the convolution 1. And filters size is 5. And the number of filters are 6 filters they use. So you will get a 28 cross 28 cross 6 you will get output. And then you apply, in the LINET, they have applied the average pooling. So this becomes 28 cross 28 becomes 14 cross 14. So 14 cross 14 cross 6 you will get. And then this, once again, apply a convolution on this 14 cross 14 cross 6. And here you choose once again filter size 5 cross 5 and padding 0 and stride 1, and the number of filters are in the LINET structure. You will have, I think, number of filters 16. Yeah. So you will get, when you have a 14 cross 14 with a filter 5 cross 5, so you will get a 5 cross 5 cross 16 as the output you will get. Then this, they will convert it into a fully connected layer. So fully connected layer means 5 is 25 times of 160, 25 times of 16 is 16 5 is 80. 16 2 is 32 plus 8, 400 neuron vector you will get. And this reduced to another fully connected layer with 120. Like this, another fully connected layer with 84 like this, they slowly reduced it, and finally you will get a 10. So here 84, because MNIST data set has 10 classes, so in the output layer you'll have 10 neurons. So like this, your LINET architecture is. And if you see the total number of parameters over this LINET is roughly around 60,000 parameters. Parameters here, all these things are parameters at every stage. So many parameters we introduce. Pooling also, you have the parameters. So we introduce so many parameters and learn those parameters. So normal systems are not sufficient enough. So they go for the GPU systems. Similarly, the next architecture that has become popular is AlexNet architecture, which basically takes the images of size 227 cross 227 cross 3, and they apply filters of 11 cross big filters. They use it at stride 4. You will get a first convolution output, and then they applied the max pool, then apply another convolution layer, then another max pool, then fully connected layer 1, fully connected layer 2, fully connected layer 3, fully connected layer 4. Like that, you will get finally the output. So many parameters. Here the parameters roughly are 16 million parameters are being used. Since such a huge network with huge parameters are not sufficient enough for the normal systems to train, people go for large high computing systems like GPU systems to make the computations. Okay. So shall we go for a small demo part of this convolution neural network? Or if you have any queries regarding the theoretical part, you can just ask me now. So shall we move to the demo part?
Yes, sir. No problem.
Yeah. So we go to the same file. And when you are using deep networks, CNNs and all, we generally use TensorFlow environment and Keras packages we use. So from Keras, we have a data set from Keras.datasets, import MNIST. So you have this is a beginner's data set, image data set, where you can try to learn and do the experimentation easily. Now for yes, madam.
Please little bit zoom. We cannot able to read.
Pardon?
Can you please zoom that window, Python code?
Okay. Is
Okay,
that clear?
Yes, it's clear.
Okay. So in order to implement a convolutional neural network, we have a model called sequential model, again available in the Keras. So from Keras.models, we import sequential model. And then from Keras, we have a different layers in a simple neural network architecture. So from keras.layers, all those different layers are available in keras.layers. Import dense layer. This is basically a fully connected layer. And from keras.layers, import convolution, 2D convolution layer. Then, or you can write all at once also. You may use a flatten, putting a comma, max-pool 2D. And also you have a dropout layer, which I forgot to mention. Okay. Cannot import max pool 2D. Okay, pool P capital. Yeah, dropout is basically another feature for the time being. You can think of as it will drop certain neurons in doing the computation. Then what else we need? Some utilities we need from keras.utils. Import np utils. Okay, and also sklearn.metrics. Import accuracy score. So these are all the things required for us. Now we for mtrain, when you import MNIST, MNIST itself has done that split up of training samples and the testing samples. So no need for a train test split for us here. So you can directly say mnist.load data. So it gets download from this location. So that is available in TensorFlow, that is available in Google APIs, that is available in storage. You will get it that downloaded. Then what we do is, let us see xtrain.shape. So you have images. These are actually 28 cross 28. I thought of 32, sorry. So 28 cross 28 images and 60,000 images are there. This itself is, you can think of as a small data set, a beginner's data set. Okay. And the test samples, you can see around 10,000 test samples are there of size 28 cross 28. So white train also, you can see the actual labels for those 60,000 samples. They actually tell what what digit that particular image contains. You will have it in whatever you have it in xtrain, the corresponding digit is available in a white train. Similarly, white test, you will have a 10,000 by 1. So when you say comma and all, that means that this is a single dimensional column vector. I hope that you know in Python. Now what we do is, since the input training input is 60,000, the shape is 60,000 cross 28 cross 28. What we do is we will try to build an input vector from these 28 cross 28 pixels. Means we'll take it, multiply all these pixels as a single dimensional vector. Means we take per image, since it is having in a rectangular shape of 28 rows and 28 columns, we will convert it into a row vector of size 28 square, that is 784 element vector we will make it, and such a 784 element vectors we will have it in 60,000 in number. So xtrain equal to xtrain dot reshape of xtrain dot shape of 0, 28, 28, 1. Now see the shape of the xtrain. Okay, so what we are doing is basically we are, since convolutions are there, we are doing one channel, so we are representing it explicitly one channel. We just let us take it directly as an input. Similarly, x test, you just reshape it as 28, 28, 1. You will get, means when you do the convolutions, you need to represent the number of channels, because the conv2D layer, whatever we have used here, is a generic layer that will have a conv2D function. So that is that takes the this is the basic syntax for that convolution layer. It will take all the parameters, so it expects that the input shape has to have a channel information also. That's why, since it is only one channel here, we put that one. Then what we do is we try to change the type to floating values for both the training and test samples. Because pixels basically are integer values, and when you do the convolution operation and all, you will get this integer to real conversions and these problems. So we'll convert it into floating values of all the training images and as well as the testing images. And we will divide it with the 255, because they are all 8-bit images having the maximum intensity value 255. So we'll convert it into a binary images, so that our work will be easy during the computations. And then what we do is create a variable called the number of classes. We have 10 classes here that we know already. And also, if you see ytrain shape, this is 60,000 column vector. So let us take a ytrain of 0. The first element value is 5, means that binary image of xtrain 0 is basically a handwritten. You can see it will display it as like this. You can also use PLT matplotlib to display it as an image also. So the first digit is 5. So what we do here is the ytrain shape, if you see, it is 60,000 cross 1. Already we have seen that. So what we do is, and if you see white train of 0, we have already seen this 5. The second number, that is whatever that number is representing 0. Then if you see the third number, that is 4 number, that is means the third image represents the number written in the third image is 4. The first image it is 5, second image it is 0. So you have in the white train decimal values, the equivalent decimal value what is there. So what we do is we will convert this into what we call it as a one-hot encoding. Means we will try to represent that decimal equivalent in the form of a binary number. Okay, means what we do is white train np utils dot, we will convert it into categorical values. Two categorical of white train means convert that data white train having 60,000 values starting with the first number 5, second number 0, third number 4, like that 60,000 values are there. So convert them into categorical classes. How many classes you have? That is 10 classes. We have already declared a variable called NC that has the value 10 we have given. So represent that. So that it will convert it into categorical values. Now you see the first value, whatever you have it earlier, if you remember, the first one is number 5. So when we put white train 0, we got, okay, white train 2 here itself in this screen available. This is 4 here. And now see categorical representation of that 4 is a 10 element feature vector. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Means you have 10 classes we have specified. So the categorically it will convert it into a 10 element feature vector, out of which the value is 4. So the first one representing 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Wherever that number is there, that particular pixel is made 1 and the rest are 0. This is what called one-hot encoding of the categorical classes. Similarly, white train 1, if you see, that number was 5, white train 0. So you will have this 1 at this position and the rest all zeros, indicating that so the output vector, whatever you get, that is going to match it, means the training output, it has to, out of the 10 neurons in the output layer, when you take 10 neurons in the output layer, all the, for the first image, all the elements positions should be 0 except the 6th position. That because that indicates the digit number 5. So like this, this sort of converting the decimal values into categorical values, we call that process as a one-hot encoding, and that can be done using the NumPy utilities called np_utils. You have to import it. Also, now let us try to build the image model. So you can say model equal to sequential model I want to build. And for the model, I need to have a convolution layer first. So add a convolution layer. So when you say convolution layer, it will first, if you see the convolution layer, you will get the first parameter is the filters. how many filters you are going to use it in the first at this stage, and what is the size of the kernel size representing the filter size, and what is the stride. So this is default 1,1 representing 1 unit displacement. Padding valid means your size will be reduced. When you say padding same, then the same size will be maintained. So these are the basic parameters you need to understand when you apply a convolution 2D layer. So I take some 25 filters I take, and then kernel size I specify it as a 3x3, and the strides specify 1x1. Then padding I can say valid, and activation function also here only you can specify a relu function, and use bias you can say 2. And now after adding a convolution layer, you can add a max pool layer, max pool 2D of pool size equal to 1x1. So since it takes a lot of time, I'll just put only one convolution layer and one max pool layer, and then I will add flatten, means you will get a single dimensional vector. Then I add a dense layer, that is a fully connected layer with 100 neurons, and put activation equal to once again relu function. And finally, I will add another dense layer of 10 neurons in the output layer, and activation equal to final layer. I'll use a softmax function as an activation function. So you can see the model plot. Okay, plot model not defined. Okay. You can say model dot summary. Okay. And let us see first compile the model. And to do the compilation, we have again 3 parameters required. One is the loss function, one is the optimizer, and one is the metric, what metric you want to use. So first function is optimizer, Adam optimizer, we use it. Don't worry about the names and all. Once you are familiar with these things, you can understand. Categorical cross entropy as the loss function, and the metrics. This help is obstructing to type it. Accuracy, So the model is compiled now. Let us try to print the summary now. Bound method of Keras engine. Something I'm not able to recollect how to print it. Okay, fine. Let us not worry about that, but try to fit it. Model.fit. It is a X train, Y train. Since we have the inputs, 60,000 inputs are there in the training samples, we cannot give all at once. So means we can give in a batch, by batch we can specify it. That is better all the time, because all the inputs at once if you give, then the system will get at one point gets stop hangs. So for that reason we can specify the batch size as 128, and for the time purpose I just execute for 10 epochs, and the validation data equal to X test and Y test. When you do this, it will take, it will try to do the learning. Okay, let me stop here, stop. Okay, I'll just put it, history means we can completely store the entire training part into a variable. So I forgot to type that, so I just put history, and now oh, it was completely got reconnected. Fine. 1 second, please. Sorry. I think that message I haven't read and simply said yes. From here we will run again. Yeah, just run again from this place. So we have come to the model, added a convolution layer, then a max pool layer, then flattened that, add a fully connected layer of 100 neurons, and finally an output layer of 10 neurons. Then compile the model. Let me try 1 second with the model dot. Okay, let us see that. Yeah, now here we were, and now we train that, and the complete training we try to put it in the history, so that we can use that history to analyze what happened. So here you can see at the bottom, it is trying to do some initial execution. Yeah. Now I will show, since our input, if you see, 469, some number is coming, right? I hope all of you are listening to me. Then there was absolute silence from your side.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. So this 469, do anyone know how it has come? Okay, we have done that. 469, let me first tell that 60,000 is the input size, and we have put a batch size of 128. So if you take 128 images at once, you will get 60,000 divided by 128 is 468.75. So that was rounded to 469. And once again, there is some problem here. Let me see that. Let me open another one which I have recently done. Sometimes nothing will be in our control. Same code. Hope that it will run here. In between, if you have any queries also, you can just, I'll try to address.
Yes, please, participants, if you have any doubts, please ask. Unmute your mic and ask. It was really a wonderful session. Sir explained the topics from scratch.
Now here it is running. You can see how the, if you see here this 469, I think I have done that. I told that because of the batch size, it will take 469 batches, and that takes 64 seconds for the entire one epoch to take, with 87 milliseconds, I think, per step. And you can see the accuracy. I will just reduce the size a little bit so that you can see all at once. So this is accuracy is a little bit low because we have only taken a simple one convolution layer and one max pool layer and immediately flattened it and run. So naturally you don't get a good accuracy. As you can see here, the accuracy here you can see is 0.1865. This is the training accuracy, and validation accuracy is 0.09. So further reduce the size. So like that, after second epoch, validation accuracy is remaining the same. Training accuracy is also slightly diminishing it. And this you can try with the different times with the different network structures. Depending on your computing system, you will get based on increasing the layers and further fine-tune the inputs, the accuracy can be further improved. So that takes some time to run, and if you have any queries, I'll stop sharing it and I'll share the code to sir. And if you have any queries, please you can ask me.
I hope participants understand clearly the implementation.
I think everyone is very hungry, and I understand from the chat that you are very much eager to take the exam and leave since already they have spent 5 full days. I hope this is the last session, or do you have any other session in the afternoon, sir?
One more soft skill training is there, sir.
Oh, one more is there, okay.
Technical last session and
Okay.
yoga session is there.
So, any queries for me?
Sidina, are you there?
Sir, I'm here.
Okay. I think all are in hungry mood, sir. It's 1:30 already. And the sir explained very clearly the topics from scratch. So if there is no queries, we'll wind up the session. I hope there is no queries.
Yeah, and if you have any queries also, you can mail me here in this mail ID. And yeah, I have a sharing option here. Let me share the code I have written here itself. I'm just downloading that. Hmm.
Sir, please share PPTs and
Yes, sir.
code everything to me. So I will forward to them.
Oh, here sharing is, I think, not there, right? I will send by mail.
Yes, sir. Okay. So I invite Shibina, a research scholar, Department of Computer Science, to propose
Thank you,
a vote
sir.
of thanks to sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good afternoon to one and all. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Kumar, sir, for giving me this opportunity to propose vote of thanks. And it's my privilege to do vote of thanks on behalf of Adal Academy and Department of Computer Science, Central University of Kerala. I would like to express our sincere